it's TankAtak, it's bullet time. Not the Matrix bullet time, but it's time to put bullets that come out of the barrel of the gun that we're going to fire today. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to do a bullet controller that will fire bullets out of the weapon and add force to them so that they move along a particular line. But the line is going to be calculated from the rotation of the tank itself. So that's all going to happen after the fade. Alright, so we've got our tank, so let's zoom in on our tank. So we can click on tank, click on the game, and then press F, as long as we have it in the scene. Oops. So let's try that again. Okay, so here's our tank. So this is our barrel. So our barrel is actually a third on the scale here. So we want it to come out of the tip here. So I am going to create another barrel, but I'm going to call this one bullet. So I'm going to do Control D to duplicate it. And I'm going to call this one bullet. And I am going to make this a third in size as well. So everything's a third in size. So our bullet is going to look like that. Okay, and our bullet has to come out the tip of the barrel, so I'm going to move it to about there. Okay, that's good enough. So you see that we have our bullet here, and it is right up against the edge of our barrel, which is good. So now I am going to create another empty game object this time, and I'm going to call this end of barrel. So end of barrel is associated with the tank. So everywhere the tank moves, the end of barrel moves. And I'm going to use a trick here. So I have my bullet here, and I have a position where it's supposed to be at, which is this along here, which is fine. So I can right click the transform, and I can do copy component, and then I can click on end of barrel, and then I can do paste component values. So that moves this point to here. See, it's the same point as our bullet. There is no difference in there. It's just the end of the bullet there. Okay, so that's the purpose of that is so that when we spawn a bullet, we spawn at that point. I'm pointing at the screen. We spawn at this point here. So now I'm going to take my bullet and I'm going to move this outside the tank hierarchy. So now we have our tank, which is just this big square here. We have our barrel, which is our sort of cuboid here, and then we have our end of barrel, which is our point here. Now our bullet, we're going to have to move that way off screen. So I'm going to drag that way over to here. So you see that we have our bullet here. Now this bullet is going to be our bullet prefab. So we're going to use this bullet to spawn many other bullets when we fire the weapon. Okay, so now we start coding some scripts here. Go to tank, so we have move tank. Now we could put the same script in our tank that we have. We could put the movement script and the firing script together. I'm not going to do that. You can put them anywhere you want. I'm going to keep them as a separate script. So this is what we have so far for our move tank. I am going to create a new script, which I'm going to call fire weapon. And my fire weapon needs access to the end of the barrel because we need to know where to spawn it from. It needs to have access to the tank object as well because I need to know the rotation of the tank object so I can rotate the bullet accordingly. And I also need to have a reference to this bullet here because I want to be able to spawn the bullet. I want to be able to spawn the same bullet every time. Okay, so we'll go back to Visual Studio now. And I go to fire weapon. And you see it's giving me some things in here. So I'm going to have public game object bullet prefab. End of barrel. And I'm going to know the game object. I'm going to get rid of these just now. I'm going to know the game object because I'm going to attach this script to the tank. So my tank, so I'm going to click on tank, and then I am going to add my fire weapon script to it. And you see that I need two, sorry, you can't see that because it's way down here. I remember this from last time because I totally screwed up here. Okay, so now we got this up here. Okay, so I've added my fire script here, and you see that we have a bullet prefab which has got nothing in it just now, and we have an end of barrel which has nothing in it just now. So I'm going to drag the end of barrel game object over here, and I'm going to drag my bullet over here. So this is my bullet prefab. This is the thing I'm going to make a copy of all the time. So I'm going to save the scene just now. So my fire is only going to fire if the fire button's down. But I need to know the fire button because the fire button varies depending on who is playing or not. So if I go to my input settings, you'll see that we have player 1 fire, player 2 fire. Okay, so I'm going to say public string fire button equals player 1 fire. So I'm just going to default it to the player 1 fire. Now, there's a couple of ways, there's always a couple of ways. I really should stop saying there's going to be a couple of ways because it's software development. There is always going to be 20 different ways to do something. So I want to try just using a coroutine for this. Because normally I would put this inside the update, but I think a coroutine might be less messy. So I'm going to create the coroutine by basically building a coroutine from the start method. So I'm going to start coroutine. Oh, I can't spell today. Start coroutine, and I am going to call this fire. I'm just going to call it fire. And because it's got a red squiggly against it, I need to create the coroutine itself. IEnumerator fire. And this is going to be going on for infinite amounts of time, so this is going to be true. And I am going to say if input.get button fire button. So if the user has the fire button pressed down, I want to fire the bullet, and then I want to have a weapon cooldown period. I don't know what the weapon cooldown period is yet, but I know I definitely want to have one. Fire the bullet, cooldown period. Otherwise, just wait to the next frame. Okay, so fire the bullet involves making a copy, prefab, and then what else do we need to do? We also need to rotate it, position it, add force to it. But of course, in order to add force to it, we need to actually give it a rigid body, which we haven't already. So let's go back to the editor. We'll let that tick over for a sec. And then we go to bullet, and we have a box collider, but we don't have a rigid body. So we will add a rigid body to our bullet. Now, does our tank have, a tank's got a mass of that. let's give it a massive 0.1 and see how we got on from there anyway. Okay, so make a copy of the prefab. So that's easy. Game object bullet equals instantiate bullet prefab. Okay. Rotate it. So we want to position it. So bullet dot transform dot position equals, well, let's do bullet rotation equals transform dot rotation. So basically we want it to face the same direction as our tank. I'm looking around for a prop here. Okay, here's one. So we have our tank, pretend this is a tank, and wherever this faces, we want the bullet to go straight ahead. So when we fire the bullet, I'm not going to fire this bullet here, but when we fire the bullet, it goes in the same direction that we're facing. And we want to position it as well. Bullet.transform.position equals end of barrel.transform.position. And then we want to add force to it. So do we want to do that as a separate script? Let's leave that for just now. But we do want to cool it down for a second. We'll return new, wait for seconds, and maybe we want to wait for a quarter of a second between firing. So let's make a copy of the prefab, rotate it, and we want to position it. This is our weapon cooldown period, and we want to add force to it. So what to do is our add force to it. Okay, so fairly simple movement, well, fairly simple bullet control script that we have here, but I think we actually want to add a bullet controller to our bullet. Well, let's just see what we've got here. Okay. All right. So our fire button, if I remember rightly, is A. So this should spawn bullets in the direction that we're going. Oh, there we go. Okay, well. So the problem is that, well, physics is the problem here, but it is working. The bullets are getting spawned at the correct rotation and the correct position. So that's good. Okay, we're getting there. Not to worry, we're getting there. So maybe we want to add force to it. So if we do rigid body RB equals, and then it's the copy we're interested in here. So we want to get this copy here. So bullet dot get component rigid body, and you can put in an if check in here, but I know that we have a rigid body here, so we do rigid body dot add force. What do we have? Well, it's going to be the forward direction, so we want to go forward from wherever our object is. So the object we want to add is transform.forward times, and then it's going to be the speed. So the speed is going to be, let's say, 20 units per second just now, and I think impulse. Let's try velocity change just now. I'll leave this as an exercise for you to look these values up, but I'm going to try velocity change just now. I think that should be enough for us. So if I run this now and I press fire, okay, well, they're not firing that far. Okay, so 200, maybe, well, I mean 20 units is 20 meters per second, so I mean that's not that fast. So let's try this again. Oh yeah, that's much better. Oh yeah, perfect. Okay, so the other thing is we want to stop it rotating. You see when it hits something, it rotates like that. These are great for bullets that are, you know, balls or whatever, but ours are very, very square. So let's stop the rotation there. So we don't want it to rotate. Where are we doing? We want to freeze the position on the Y, because we don't want. We just want it to be. We don't want the. It's effectively a 2D game, so we don't want the position to move up and down on the grid. So when we do, when we fire the bullet, it will go straight on there. It won't dip towards the end. So fire, and you see now that it's staying where it is. It definitely doesn't like that corner in there, but that's more of a collision thing. It's probably too steep for it. And then the rotation, we want it to rotate on the Y, because we're rotating the when we rotate the bullet, we rotate it on the Y axis, but we don't want to rotate it on the X axis or the Z axis, which would get it to twist in all these different directions. So we freeze the rotation on the X and Y, sorry, the X and Z. So now our bullet should thump, just stop. There you go, perfect. So it still rotates in the Y, which is fine, because that's okay. But there's certainly a little bit of weight to it. So yeah, that's our bullets. Not much script at all. That's pretty much it here. And I like that. It's actually fairly compact script for us. So we have our two game objects, which are one's for our bullet prefab, the other one's for the end of the barrel. We've got a fire button there. The only thing I'm going to change is I'm going to add a couple of variables here for float cooldown, which is 0.25, and the other one is what was the other one? Speed. That was it. So I'm going to change that to 200, and then I'm going to change that to speed, and that is going to be cooldown. And the reason why I'm doing that is because I want to expose these properties into the editor so that I can change them if I feel like it. So now these cooldown and the speed values are exposed over here, which means that if we want to go and we change the cooldown from, you know, we think that's probably too fast. So maybe we just want it to be half a second. So our half a second now is going to look like this, which is a little bit better, but maybe it's even a little bit too much. Maybe we just make it a second. So that's like 1, 2. So now when we fire, there, that's a little bit better. a little bit slower. So you see that the weapon cooldown period, you can change that. If you make that a smaller number, then it's going to be more like a machine gun, and if you make it a faster number, it's going to be more of a slower loading weapon. So it just gives a little bit more realism to your game. So yeah, I think we're done here for today. I think we're good to go for bullets. That is your bullet firing script. Once again, guys, thank you very much for watching. I know that time is precious, and thank you very much for spending watching these videos. Sorry it's been a while since I last uploaded. I have no excuses. A lot of people come up here, oh, I've done this and that, and the next thing is just I need to make more time. So I need to schedule my time a little bit better so I can get more videos, or at least get videos quicker out to you, because can't leave you hanging in the middle of a series like this. So yeah, I apologize for that. Thank you very much for watching. If you like this video, then give it a big thumbs up. If you didn't like this video, then give me a big thumbs down, and leave a comment below if you wouldn't mind. Thank you, letting me know what you think. Would you do anything different? Would you use coroutines? Would you use the update method? Would you use fixed update? Maybe not, because well, whatever. If you think I should have used fixed update and you have a damn good reason for that, let me know below. Yeah, so thank you very much again, and I will catch you next time. Cheers.